Chase Oliver.
Nice to meet you, Mike. I'll not meet you, but know you, actually.
It's nice to know you. We've been on the road together a little bit.
Yeah, I say like you, me, and Lars were like the three people who ran the earliest, so I kind of say we're like the three amigos because we've seen each other so much, and now we've even flown on a plane together across the country.
Well,
So
that's true. Although you and I weren't sitting in first class.
no, we weren't. We were back in the back in steerage. Luckily, Lars can afford that, and you know what? God bless him.
God bless
I
him.
wish I had the bigger seat too. I ain't gonna lie.
Well, good point. And then his people had the guts to complain about how long it took for you and me to get off the airplane.
Well, when you're in the back of the plane, it does take a
It
minute.
takes a
You do have to
while.
let other people get that luggage ahead of you. But here's one thing I found. Being in the back of the plane can be really advantageous. One time somebody recognized me for my Senate race in the back of the plane. And so I
Ah,
immediately pulled out business cards and started handing, I'm campaigning for president
good
now. And so
job.
I campaigned the whole back of the plane. We did a whole mini Q&A for the 5 minutes that it took everyone else to get out.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I'm a constant campaigner.
Now,
Every Waffle House I've ever been to.
we are in your home state.
Absolutely.
Well, at least where you live now.
Oh, I
Is
lived
this
here.
where you were born?
No, I was born in Nashville, but I've lived in Georgia
You were
since I
born
was
in
7.
Nashville.
Yeah.
As you know,
Mm-hmm.
my daughter lives in Nashville,
Mm-hmm.
one of my daughters. And you have met Claudia, of course, and
Yeah.
she was actually very grateful for the conversation that you guys had.
Oh yeah.
So when did you move to Georgia?
So
you were a
when
kid?
I was 7, yeah, my parents moved out to Georgia, and I lived out around Atlanta while I was being raised, and I've lived in Atlanta as an adult since 2009.
Okay, so what I wanted to ask you is, do you still get recognized sometimes from the Senate
I have.
campaign?
I have. The craziest one was I was at the airport and I was about to fly out to Seattle, and there was a church group there. And of course, I started talking to the chaperones of the church group. They were flying up to Alaska, and then this young man came up and he said, "Excuse me, are you Chase Oliver? Did you run for Senate last year?" And I said, "Yeah, I did." And he goes, "Well, I want you to know I'm 18 years old, and you're the first person I ever voted for because I saw your debate." And
That
it made
is so good.
it's so rewarding. It makes all the
Of
miles
course it
traveled and
is.
all the doors I knocked in that campaign totally worth it to hear that from somebody, especially a young voter, right? Because
Right.
we activated them. Now
Yeah.
he's going to be hopefully a
He could
libertarian
be a
for his life.
libertarian for 100 years.
He could run for libertarian U.S. Senate one day, right?
By the time he does, he could win for all we know.
Exactly, right?
So that's very exciting.
But it was just really rewarding to hear that from somebody and to get that direct feedback from a voter.
It's huge. Good for you. Good for you.
Mhm.
So tell me about the presidential campaign. What do you think so far? Is anyone paying any attention? What topics do you like to talk about, and what do you think people like to hear?
Yeah, so I've been liking the race so far. First off, like I said, I got to know you and Lars and a few of the other candidates in the slate.
Sure. You
So
put up with us. Thanks for that.
That's been pleasant, right? But I really do think, you asked if anybody's listening. One of the things I've been trying to do is do things outside of LP affiliates.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I've done college things and hosted meetings of my own or ranked choice voting forums.
Yes.
Because I do want people to know that a libertarian is running. Even if it's not, whether it's me or not, I want people to know libertarians are running for president right now.
Good for you. I've noticed that you've done quite a bit of that, and thank you for doing it. I think it's awesome.
Maybe it's detrimental because I should be out here just shaking delegates' hands and doing the delegate thing.
Well, there are plenty of times when we don't have an opportunity to meet with a lot of delegates. One
Lots
day.
of free
so
time.
if you're I don't know about lots of free time, but in between delegate meetings, we do have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I say free time, I mean I actually left a full-time job to do this. So,
I know you did.
So I use my life savings, and I do temporary online personal assistant work just to get some money to put food in the belly and stuff like that.
Good.
And I'm blessed that I'm living rent free for a year thanks to somebody that my best friend for my entire life. So I'm able to run full time, which is something that I think has helped me have those kind of meetings and not just going to conventions.
Me too. You and I are very similar situations.
Oh yeah.
But
you're staying busy too. I would say of miles traveled, you're probably second right there, right.
Well,
because I've traveled way too much.
yeah. But I mean to say that I have a friend who paid my rent too. Me, by virtue of being a generation ahead of you, I've been able to get myself into a situation where I don't have a regular mortgage payment to meet. So I left my job too.
My grandfather on my mom's or my dad's side, my grandparents never had a mortgage because they got married and they moved in with my great grandparents. And when they passed, the house passed on to my grandmother. And so they had never paid a mortgage. So all through my childhood, my grandfather, he would spoil the grandchildren, and he would always tell my grandmother, "It's okay, Minnie. We don't have a mortgage. I can spoil them. I have extra money for grandkid stuff."
It is nice to have that flexibility. Good for them.
Mm-hmm.
So, what, as you see it, what are the hot topics? What what do you like to talk about when you have a chance to talk either inside or I guess I should ask you both, inside the LP and outside the LP.
Yeah, well, I think the topics that are, of course, going to be at the top of the list are, the big three is the economy, immigration, and then education. And of course, I like to talk about all three of those. I've been an immigration activist for a long time,
Yep.
but really the way I break to people outside of the LP. So I was at the Iowa State Fair, talked to lots of people who weren't libertarians. They were just coming by to talk to us.
Right.
And the way I sold our philosophy, particularly parents, as I said, I see you're a parent. Do you have unconditional love for your kid? They would say, "Yeah, I would do anything for them." And I say, that's why you're going to be their best advocate. Because what we do in this country is we take power out of your hands and we put it into the bureaucrats' hands in D.C. or in the State House in Des Moines.
Yep.
Shouldn't we take that power out of their hands and give it to you for education, healthcare, or any other decision for your child?
Right.
Shouldn't you be the primary advocate? And that broke through to people.
That is the ultimate in decentralization, and should be what our education policy is all about.
Yeah, it broke right through to these people who are Democrats, Republicans, Independents. They kind of got it when I was like, that's what we want to do with everything, is take power out of the hands of people who really shouldn't be making those decisions and putting it in your hands or in your community's hands, your family's hands, your neighborhood's hands. Like, if we can get down to that level on a lot of things, we'll be more peaceful. So I think that is a way that we can talk to voters, particularly outside of the LP, connecting those dots that way.
Yep.
And they go, "Oh, I just thought you liked weed and guns." And it's like, no, we have a whole philosophy.
We have a branding problem, Chase. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think sometimes we allow ourselves to be, branded wrong. And I think one of the things that I want to do in running for office, and I hope any libertarian who sees this, can help assuage the slander of our party that we are selfish or that we don't care about other people.
Well, that is well said.
Yeah, just because we don't want the government to do something doesn't mean we don't want people to do something. We just believe it can be done better.
Right.
So we can address healthcare or people in need or, helping immigration or any of these other things without the state-centered solution. Doesn't mean we don't care about those populations and those people. It just means
it's not just philosophy
ways.
On our side, but empirically, we know objectively that the state does not do a good job of providing these solutions.
Yeah, my grandpa used to say, they'll tax you $1 and they'll give you a dime. And that's how I've always viewed the way the government works.
In some cases, that's exactly right. Or worse.
Yeah, right.
In some cases.
And so they'll take the money out of your pocket and then they'll wash it through the bureaucratic machine. And that dollar ends up just getting less and less value because it has to be going through all these middlemen. When if we just directly helped people, it would go so much further.
Or let people help themselves.
Yeah, let people help themselves.
You and I have spent time talking about sunsetting Social Security. So that's a good example.
Really important for people in my generation because here's the truth. We're either going to be taxed for it and not get anything, or we're not going to be taxed for it and not get anything. So I say the latter is far better than the first.
It's far better.
And we really need to be making that message known. And just the truth is a mutual fund is going to outperform Social Security all the time. The S&P 500 regularly outproduces what you're ever going to get from Social Security.
And the difference over your lifetime is hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it really matters. So let me ask you, I'm really interested in your view on this, and I probably should have asked you off camera before asking you on camera. Sometimes I say I'm optimistic that a lot of people outside of the party in the United States are ready for a full-throated anti-war message. Am I in la-la land, or do you think there is reason to be optimistic? Do you think people are ready to hear that?
So I was a member of the anti-war left during the Bush years.
I know. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to ask you.
And I really think there is a
You've been anti-war since before being a libertarian.
Yeah, I like to say I'm anti-war to the core, right? I just oppose the use of force in an offensive way like that. And so I do believe there's a thirst for that in our country. I believe there are a lot of voters, particularly my age, who were activists against war, who saw the party that they were thinking they were supporting just forget about them, and maybe they kind of settled or negotiated and said, well, hope and change is worth it. But you know what? I think if a full-throated, real anti-war message came out that put behind the principles, not just saying, this, that, or the other, but no, we just oppose the use of military force around the world as an offensive measure because it creates chaos, death, and destruction, and we don't want to be facilitating that. I think there's a real thirst for that among voters. And if we can really push that message out there in a way that's responsible and respectful. Here's the thing. I understand people are suffering on both sides of these wars, but we don't have to add to the suffering one way or the other. and we can also be pushing for diplomatic solutions and also being humanitarians. Like there's a lot of things we can do without firing a single bullet that can create a lot more
Back to
peace in the
your
world.
point, just because we don't want, in this case, military interventionism from our federal government doesn't mean we don't care.
Yeah,
It doesn't
exactly.
make us isolationists.
It doesn't, and it doesn't mean that I don't care about the plight of other people. It's why I talk about like, yeah, like these Russian soldiers who are fighting the war over there, they're being conscripted too. They're not there as a matter of choice. So why shouldn't we allow them to make asylum claims in the United States to get away from a tyrannical government that is forcing them to put a gun in their hand and kill
We
kill
should
people?
invite all of them.
All the people, anybody who wants to get out of a war zone, let them come here. And let,
Or even if they're not in a war zone, they should be able to come here.
truth be told, the free market should really determine that. But I think if we want to show that we care, we can say, you know, let's support humanitarian efforts at the grassroots from individuals who want to help people come over, settle as refugees, take care of them.